Kids have goggles on and stuff. Quintina wears a bathing suit bottom that has a skirt on it. And one of the kids went under the water, and her skirt had flown up and saw that she, had junk, and said something to another kid. Like, is there something that, like, if you're a trans woman, like, is there something that you can wear that can kind of cover it up so, you look on the outside? When you're wearing certain clothes, you don't want to have a bulge. You want it to be smooth. Or should I not worry about that? I don't know really how to address this issue, but any help is greatly appreciated. She's only been out for, was it August? About 8 months. And so this is like a learning process. We're on a waiting list for her to get gender affirming therapy. Obviously she's 7.
7 what? Years older than you?
So it's not anything except talk therapy.
Does anyone else find it extremely concerning that there is a waiting list for gender affirming therapy for a 7-year-old?
But that's what they said the first step was. And so we haven't had many more conversations with any professionals beyond that.
I have a very hard time calling anyone a professional that allows or even encourages you to consider or commit to transitioning your child from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy. That is predatory behavior. That is profit from pain.
So any suggestions, anything would be very helpful. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Because I want her to have like
8 months of this and the kid's mom is still confused, yet we're not supposed to be confused?
a good childhood experience, but at the same time, like, there are other things that I have to take into account. So yeah, thank you. Mwah.
I'm going to say you're doing a pretty shitty job at taking those other things into account. You want them to have a good childhood, then why subject them to that kind of ridicule and that difficult path when really it's not necessary and they did not choose it at 7.
When a kid tells you that they're transgender, believe them.
No, don't believe them.
A lot of people will say that it's impossible for a 4-year-old to know if they're trans or not.
It is impossible.
Actually, that's not true. They can know.
No, they can't know.
And here's why.
First and foremost, children do not start developing their own identity till they're like 5. To them, they are an extension of their mother. They don't even know they are their own person yet.
From day one, gender is baked into everything we do.
Gender can't be baked into any part of our existence while simultaneously being a construct created by humans within our society. It is the flagrant hypocrisy running rampant throughout this ideology that is what absolutely drives me up a spiked wall.
Use a little common sense and we'll be all right.
Have a boy name or a girl name. Boy toys or girl toys. Boy clothes or girl clothes. So from an early age, kids understand the difference between boy and girl, and more importantly, which one they're expected to be.
Gender is not an expectation. It is the crux of your biological existence and determines the role you will play in the procreation of humanity.
So it makes sense that if what they feel inside is different than what they're expected to be, then they might feel uncomfortable, and they might want to talk about that discomfort. And we all know that kids are good at talking about how they feel.
Actually, no, they're not.
For example, Mommy, I skinned my knee. Mommy, someone called me a name on the playground. Or even, Mommy, I don't like wearing boy clothes.
Saying, Mom, I scraped my knee is not a kid telling you how they feel. Nor is a kid saying, Mom, I don't want to wear a dress today. Do you know how often I told my mom I didn't want to wear a dress? Every day of my life.
until I moved out. Do I have my tits cut off and a fake swinging between my legs? No, and I'm very happy that I don't.
These are all similar feelings of discomfort that we can talk about to our parents. That's not
I'm sorry, what do you mean
We can talk about.
to our parents?
That's not to say that all kids will realize they're transgender when they're little. A lot don't. I didn't until I was 27, but I can't tell you how many people I've met that knew they were trans at 4 or 5 years old.
Why? Are you meeting a lot of 4 and 5-year-olds? Or are you talking about adults that are telling you as adults that they knew when they were 4 and 5?
Also, I find it a little misleading that he's saying all kids might not realize that they're trans when they're young. Again, what do you mean by all kids? Surely we all know that the statistics of a child being transgender are slim to none, like in the tenths of a percentile.
So if there's a kid in your life who's telling you they're trans, please believe them. They know what they're talking about. And your support...
I'm not sure how or why we got here, but no. Kids don't know what they're talking about because they're kids. That's why they have parents.
And your support might save their life.
I know whose support won't save their life.
I mean, my son wanted to be Spider-Man.
For 3 years.
And saying he wanted to be Spider-Man isn't even fair. He thought he was
Spider-Man.
He was Spider-Man for 3 years. What was I supposed to do? Feed him a radioactive spider and hope for the best?
Hello, I'm Janet Robertson. I have 3 children in the district, elementary school, middle school, high school. At the last meeting, my time to speak was cut short, and there was so much to say about the new sexual education curriculum. I realized the curriculum has already been approved. I also realized that Miss Rice, who I incorrectly was referring to as a doctor, explained that only 3 families out of 4,500 students in Benicia voiced concern about the curriculum. But I would like to say to you, who are entrusted to represent and make decisions for our children, that we have a big concern with what is now being taught to children as young as 10 in Benicia, such as children are being asked to identify their pronouns, and this is now part of the 10-year-old curriculum. This forces a gender discussion beyond the scope of the state requirements and complicates an already overburdened classroom environment. We are alarmed that gender identity is now being discussed in math classes.
And I'm sorry, with the atrocious literacy and extreme lack of basic math and science skills that American students have, why are we wasting any time confusing them when they don't know how to read a novel and keep focus? These kids don't know how to tell time on an analog clock. But sure, let's confuse them about their parts.
This takes time from core learning and does not benefit the students or our community. Teaching kids that there isn't any standard or truth and that you can believe anything you want to believe is not scientifically accurate or medically correct.
We can't start teaching our children lies to make a few people feel better about themselves. You're selfish and you're an asshole. Fact.
For example, the notion that a girl can decide to be a boy or a boy can decide to be a girl is not true and should not be taught. The new curriculum teaches that individuals can decide if they're male or female, regardless of anatomy. Our 10-year-olds will now be taught that they can receive puberty blockers to prevent their body from going through changes that make them uncomfortable. All humans are uncomfortable during adolescence.
All humans are uncomfortable during adolescence. All humans are uncomfortable during adolescence.
I don't know who's lying to people, but puberty and adolescence were never comfortable or easy or sane for any human at any point in our history, I'm sure. It's because puberty works against self-esteem. The pressures with social media and everything,
I can't imagine having to be a teenage girl now, but taking advantage of that to make money off of mutilating her is absolutely disgraceful. There's not even a word for that.
To teach vulnerable children that a lifetime of dependence on medical care is a viable option is completely unacceptable.
And absolutely disgusting, if you ask me.
And evil.
To make a child dependent on medication for literally the rest of their life, I can't even fathom doing that to a kid. That's
willingly, deliberately creating an addict. Dependency is addiction. You want them to be an addict. Most of the pharmaceutical field, and apparently now the medical field, want to create as many addicts as they can because it ensures money, consistent
money,
always
money
into their pockets. They get raises,
money,
they raise the prices,
money,
insurance raises the premiums,
money.
But as a parent, to decide for your child that they are going to be dependent on medication for the rest of their life is cruel. It's pure evil. Addiction is a living hell. You are putting that child into a living hell that they don't even realize yet. But trust me, they will. And they're going to resent you for it.
The new curriculum encourages gender confusion, not gender clarification. All parents should question how this is helpful, scientifically sound, or medically accurate. 12-year-olds will now be taught about oral and anal sex. 12-year-olds. So I get a little emotional about this because I think that's wrong. When we asked, we were told the reason the curriculum removes the idea of male and female was to be more inclusive, no longer identifying females as having ovaries and males as having testes.
It's nonsense.
People are not gender fluid, and to teach our children this is not okay. We're appalled that the school district has adopted this curriculum.
Thank you.
As soon as mom said she was appalled at the school for adopting the curriculum, bitch was like, ding, bell, see ya, bye. And mom was like, what? You wanna go? I'm not done yet. Let's get it. Bye, school.
So, thank you.
If anybody wants information on where to find this information in the new curriculum, I've researched it very thoroughly. I'm happy to provide that.
A 12-year-old boy attending middle school in Middleborough, Massachusetts was sent home from school recently for wearing a t-shirt which teachers complained made some students feel unsafe. The shirt that Liam Morrison wore looked like this one, with 5 words, "There are only 2 genders." Liam recently told the school board that he refused to remove the shirt because he was only stating facts.
I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned
that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decision.
The main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. Only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or psychological warfare. Ideological subversion is overt and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All American mass media has to do is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There's no mystery.
There's no mystery. There's no mystery.
To change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. No one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow. Demoralization, it takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students.
Overall, he made a pretty compelling case for how America's cultural cohesion and moral compass can be warped and changed to create a weaker nation and stir up civil unrest. And since then, it seems that a lot of what he predicted has actually come true. The problem is, this is a lie. It wasn't the Russians that did this to us. It wasn't the KGB or the Chinese that altered the course of entertainment, turning it into a tool to socially engineer us into a broken culture with distorted morality, causing us to adopt destructive mindsets and believing in broken philosophies. No, we did this to ourselves. It was our own entertainment industry that did this to us. It was our own people who changed film, television, and music into a tool of moral destruction. And social movements like social justice warriors, whatever you want to call them, were trained to be useful idiots in this war for our minds, essentially demanding that the entertainment industry implement these changes into art, all in the name of inclusion.
Inclusion is an illusion. Behind the guise of inclusion, we have allowed exclusion. Behind the farce of diversity, we have accelerated division.
The aforementioned demoralization of our society, I believe, is almost at its completion. We are contributing to it by promoting and propagating these deviant lifestyles, pushing them onto children, creating a zero moral foundation for the generations to come. They're being conquered at a terrifying pace. To the powers that be,
we are expendable.
They want to be able to have everything they want and as much of it as they want. They will never give up the excess. They will only increase it, and it will be at our expense. Unfortunately, the majority of the population believe that they are doing the right thing. They believe they are acting righteously and with morals and in the interest of humanity and with empathy, when really they're just being tricked into believing that, just like he said. We have certainly become incapable of acting in the best interest of ourselves, our family, our friends, our community, and our country. So let the chaos begin.
Or continue.